Hello and welcome to my project demo. Let's jump into the overview section. So firstly, in terms of what problem I'm solving here, well, I'm trying to determine what the relationship between badminton athletes' height and their performance at the Olympic Games is. I expect there to be a positive relationship between these two variables, where better results are correlated with higher average height. I got this information from the athleteevents.csv data file from Canvas, and this is interesting to me because I've always loved badminton. I started playing at the age of 4 years old. In terms of design choices that were made and why I made those design choices, well, I followed the how to design data recipe when making my data definitions. You can see here with my sex and result data definitions, I used enumeration because both of these only have 2 and 4 distinct values for sex and result respectively. Male and female for sex, gold, silver, bronze, and not applicable for results. I also had to make a compound data definition to store my athlete information and a list of athlete information to eventually store all the data that I was going to pull from my intended CSV file as well as the test CSV files. Additionally here, my helper functions that I made were simply because of the reference rule. For example, here with the average height for gold medal male badminton athletes, I had to write multiple helper functions following the reference rule, as you can see on the screen in front of you. And of course, in terms of the analysis function, I had to follow composition. And this was because I decided on the various composition steps because of the fact that there were multiple distinct tasks. So as you can see here on the screen in front of you, following the idea of one task per function, I had to break each distinct task down into separate helper functions, and I'll get more into those distinct tasks later on. Now, if I had to redo the project, what would I change? Well, here you can see that I have a helper function to compute the average height of gold medal male badminton athletes, another one here for silver, and so on and so forth across all the categories. And for each of these helper functions, I had to design 2 additional helper functions because of the reference rule. And these helper functions have to check the results field of the athlete information compound, as well as check whether the result enumeration matched. And again, this was repeated for the 4 categories and the 2 sexes. A potential solution that I came up here was to have just one helper function that takes a result parameter and an athlete information parameter and returns true if the result type matches the result field in the athlete information parameter. I think I'd still have to write 2 helper functions, but this way I could potentially cut down on repeating the same thing across all 4 categories. Now jumping into problem solving. Well, firstly, my function starts with a read function which takes in data from a CSV file and outputs it as a list from which I can do my data transformation. We then move on to an analysis function which first filters for badminton values in the sport field only. It then filters for male badminton athletes only, and then from there, it calculates the average height of badminton athletes who are male, who achieved a gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, or didn't medal, and then this repeats for female badminton athletes. And then it visualizes these substantial computations in terms of finding the average height as a clustered bar chart, where the average heights of male and female badminton athletes are side by side for each of the 4 categories that I described and where you can see on the screen in front of you. And of course, all of this is then performed when I call the main function right over here. And now, in terms of the output of my program, here is a screenshot where I call in the intended information file. We can conduct some rudimentary analysis here. Overall, there's no clear positive or negative relationship based on what I expected. Instead, there's no clear trend between male or female badminton athletes' heights and their performance at the Olympic Games. Now, continuing to the most challenging section, I think it was easily having to make the function for my clustered bar chart. I followed the work example provided under the Week 8 module on Canvas. And some of the code I could deduce since it followed the style conventions of the course, such as having a purpose, stub, and so on and so forth. But some parts were completely new to me, such as setting the tick labels. So for those, I had to turn to Piazza and tutorials for assistance, and those actually taught me that being proactive and asking for help when I don't fully understand a concept or a line of code will help me better understand the problem. And finally, in terms of future work and ways I can use my systematic programming design skills in the future to solve problems in my chosen topic area. Well, firstly, we can look at the 2 other ideas that I listed in my project proposal. For example, finding out how track and field athletes' weight has changed over time and outputting this as a line chart, or finding out how tennis athletes over the age of 30 have performed at the Olympics and outputting this as a pie chart. And you can feel free to refer to my project proposal for more detailed information and steps. And of course, I don't think that this just has to be limited to an Olympic Games data set. I think really the core topic for my research question was badminton, and I actually trained my sister in badminton, so some of the functions that I came up with was writing a visualization function that outputs the speed of her smashes over time, or writing an analysis program that finds, on average, which specific part of the opponent's court she hits to, and developing tactics based on that. Overall, this project has taught me a lot about systematic programming design, and I'm excited to learn more about programming to expand my knowledge. So thank you for watching my demo.